She ran to catch up with Higgins and marched along beside him. "You're a mighty cheerful little scamp," he said, as he smiled down at her. "I'm so happy to see you, Mr. Higgins," she said, laughing. She thought to herself, "Higgins is my good friend, even if he is one of the enemy." That is a pretty strange thought, that she could consider the enemy, the people who are trying to kill her family, a friend. Strange. She felt funny thinking it, but it comforted her to have a friend in this strange and frightening place. "There are soldiers here wearing short skirts." She could hardly stop laughing when she thought of them. "Their knees are bare and their legs are hairy. I should think they would be cold when the wind blows." Higgins laughed to see her so merry. "And there are Hessians, too," Ellen shuddered. "I know they are Hessians. They look so fierce, they scare me." Suddenly, she could feel tears splashing down on her jacket, and all her efforts to be brave broke down. She was laughing and crying at the same time, laughing and crying both together. What had happened to her? Higgins' kind dark eyes were filled with concern as he looked at her. "What's amiss with you, Tolliver?" Ellen took a deep breath before she blurted out, "I wanted to go to Elizabethtown, and the boat brought me to Amboy instead." "Oh, so this is Amboy," said Higgins, surprised. "How far away is Elizabethtown?" he asked. 10 miles! Whew! Higgins glanced up at the sun. "Must be 3 o'clock. That's quite a march," he said. "But if you hurry, you'll make it all right." Ellen was running to keep up with him. "But I'm afraid of going by myself." "Being afraid is nothing to hold you back," said Higgins. "Just square your shoulders and start. Things aren't so bad after you start." It's again Higgins giving her really good advice. Sometimes when things are scary, the only thing you can do is really just get going. He was fumbling in his pocket. "Hold out your hand, Tolliver," he said, and he pressed a coin into her mitten. "There. Go get on the stagecoach, and you'll be there long before dark." Before she could tell him that she already had money in her pocket and there was no stagecoach, an officer on a big gray horse dashed up at her. "Begone, boy!" he cried angrily as he flicked at her with his riding crop. "I'll have no boys begging for my men." The officer roared at her. Ellen ducked, but the horse kept edging her over to the side of the road and turned so she couldn't dodge around him. She couldn't even see Higgins as he marched away. Very carefully, she opened her hand to look at the coin, a fat silver coin, bigger than she had ever seen. She couldn't even thank him for it. She might never see Higgins again, but she'd never forget him. He had given her something more important than money. He had been her friend. Now, she knew she could do it somehow. Yeah, I think this is really important. Again, sometimes when you're doing something that's too hard, all you need is just a close friend that believes in you. If they believe in you, you can start to believe in yourself. Back to the old woodcutter, she ran to ask the way to Elizabethtown. "I'm going to walk," she said to the old man. "I'm going to walk to Elizabethtown," she said again, when he did not seem to understand her. He looked at her with a faint smile on his face. "Well," he said as he gulped down the last of the bread, "I did it myself many a time when I was young and had young legs like yours." He took off his cap and scratched his head as he squinted at the sun. "Must be nigh on to 3 o'clock. But it's a good road. You can walk it at night." "At night?" cried Ellen. "I'm going to run most of the way to get there before dark. I've walked 10 miles before," she said to the old man. "I can do it again when there is naught else to be done." She sounded bold. She sounded like a person who could run 10 miles and never stop for breath. But inside, she was trembling. And we talked about this before, that sometimes, and again, when we're afraid to do something, if we pretend we're not, even if we're actually afraid on the inside, that we can accomplish it, and eventually we won't be afraid anymore. We don't have to pretend anymore. "Well, start running then," the old man said, and he turned back to his firewood. I'll just take a minute now to write down your just statement. You can pause the video if you would like. right. If you've paused it, you may unpause, and here we go. This is the good gist. And if you have most of these things, or yours is similar to this, then you should be fine. I said that. Ellen finds out that she's not in the right town. She tries to hire a stagecoach, but there are none to be had. She asks an old woodcutter to take her, but he says there's no way. She sees Higgins again, who tells her that she just has to start, even if she's afraid. And with that in mind, she begins her 10-mile journey to Elizabethtown on her own.